Welcome to the Productive Life podcast hosted by me, Megan Minns. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs who want to be more productive in their business and their personal life. Because as a business owner, your business and personal life are connected, and we can't talk about one without talking about the other. Each week, you'll learn about productivity, organization, personal development, self-care, business strategies, and more. And now, let's get started. Welcome to this episode of the Productive Life podcast. I am so excited to be chatting with you today all about how to stop looking to other people for answers. If you have ever been in a situation where you are just wanting someone to tell you what to do, have you ever said that before? I just wish someone would tell me what to do. Maybe you're about to start a new project or you're making a decision and you just keep sending messages to your friends or asking your mentors or coaches or asking your audience, sending surveys and polls and just waiting to suddenly have an answer. And maybe you're feeling frustrated because you're just like, I don't even know what to do. I totally get it. I have found myself in that situation many times. And in fact, when I started my business back in 2014, I think I spent several years constantly in this state of not trusting myself to make a decision. I was relying on course creators to tell me the step-by-step thing to do that would be the magic pill solution. I was posting in Facebook groups and free communities waiting for someone to give me an answer on my situation. I was messaging my friends, even some who didn't have businesses, just because I needed someone to tell me if this sounded good. I would hire coach after coach and expecting the coach to tell me what to do. Just tell me my next step. I don't know what to do next. And ultimately, this meant that I would spend days, weeks, and even months weighing my options and feeling uncertain. So if this is you and you're here watching this live or watching the replay on Facebook, I would love to hear from you. But the truth is that relying on someone else to make decisions for you, especially in business, will hold you back. It will slow you down, decrease your own self-confidence, and leave you feeling ultimately like an imposter. Building a business on other people's decisions is not empowering. I know, I did that. I created a business doing what everyone else told me to, doing what other people expected of me, and making decisions based in fear. And while I did make some money doing that, I was miserable internally behind the scenes. I didn't like what I did. I didn't like what my offers were. I felt like a fraud behind the scenes. And that's not how I feel anymore, thankfully. So that's why I want to share this with you, because this has been something I have dealt with on and off for years. And to be able to go from that place of frustration and dependence on other people and insecurity in your own decision-making process, to go from that to being in the situation where you can make your own decisions with confidence, take fast action, and ultimately having a business that reflects you and allows you to show up as yourself without that fear or insecurity or doubt. It is transformational. It's empowering. It will be a game changer for you if you can release this dependence on other people to make decisions and start relying on yourself. So that's what we're going to be digging into today. I'm going to give you the 5 steps to get from point A to point B and to start trusting yourself to make decisions. And really, in order to stop relying on others for answers, the truth is you do have to start relying on yourself. You have to trust yourself. You have to trust your ability to make decisions. You have to let go of the fear of making the wrong decision, and you have to stop overthinking. In fact, last podcast episode, episode 50, I talked all about how to stop overthinking. So if you haven't listened to that episode yet, be sure to go listen to that after you've finished this episode. So let's jump straight in. How do we start trusting ourselves to make decisions? Step number 1, stop asking other people. Just stop. I know that sounds very simple, but it really is step 1. You're never going to start learning how to make your own decisions and trusting yourself if you continue to ask people. So especially right now, if you're listening to this and you are currently stuck in this state, the most important thing you can do is stop asking. Stop doing polls on Instagram stories, stop asking people, stop posting in Facebook groups, and realize that this is something you're stuck in and we want to overcome this. So we have to stop what we're currently doing. You also want to stop looking for answers in the courses and programs you've bought. Now, I love courses. I think they're so valuable, but when you're kind of stuck in this decision-making hole, it's not more knowledge that's going to help you move through this issue. You're not at a point where you have a lack of resource or insights or knowledge on what to do next. You have endless opportunities and resources available to you. So it's not necessarily more knowledge that we need. It's not what we should do. It's not what the experts say to do. When you're at this place where you're really dependent on other people, we kind of have to take a moment and just cut all ties. So stop asking and also stop Googling and seeking out the answer elsewhere. What we want to do instead is actually create some spaciousness. Is the right word? Create some space for you to do some thinking and start actually working through this. So we got to stop. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is to actually ask yourself. Most people, most of my clients and students, when we're working through this issue, find that they very rarely actually ask themselves what they think their next step should be, or what should I do this or that. So often we're just thinking it over and over again, and we're asking everyone else, that we never actually pause and take a minute and ask ourselves and give ourselves the opportunity to work through this question. So in order to ask yourself, what I like to do is make sure you spend time in some reflection mode. So this is very intentional. When you are debating what to do next, you're weighing a bunch of options, you really need to stop asking and then sit down with, I think, a piece of paper, something, if you like to doodle on a tablet, like whatever is going to allow your brain to just play with different options. You want to actually sit down and give yourself that time to workshop with yourself on your answers. Clarity will not come to you by jumping from task to task and being busy and being constantly all over the place. We have to have some quiet time. So I like to do this with a piece of paper. In fact, I have a journal, and I am constantly writing in this journal, not only for mindset purposes, but every single morning I am working through decisions. I am working through ideas. I'm working through next steps. I'm debating options, and I'm giving myself that time to actually work through it. So I'm asking myself the question, legitimately writing it out on a piece of paper. I don't know if I should do this or this. What about this? How should I launch this new offer? What should I do to promote this thing? What should I sell next? What should I talk about on this week's live stream? Anytime I need to make a decision and I don't already know the answer, I am actually writing out the question in my journal, and I give myself time right then to actually respond. What are the ideas I have? What are the options? What do those options look like? What are the potential outcomes? What are the things that are in your head that you're just not actually extracting and pulling out of your own mind because you haven't given yourself the time to do that? So I find that when I'm doing this with clients, just the act of sitting there and writing it out and brainstorming all the options, you may actually end up with clarity just in a few minutes. So with certain decisions and certain things you're debating, you will have just instant clarity after you just do step 1 and 2 and just work through it. It might come to you really quickly. And sometimes it won't. Sometimes it will take a little bit longer. Sometimes you won't know just from one journaling session or one brainstorming session what the next step is for you. And that is okay. And that's actually step 3. Be okay in this state of unknown. Being in this gray area, this, one time I heard someone call it like the vortex of the uncertainty, like just being in this weird gray space that you just don't exactly know what your next steps are. We need to get comfortable being in this space. Being uncomfortable is not innately enjoyable. We don't want to be in this state for too long, but if you are doing some journaling and you're carving out the space for yourself to brainstorm and work through, sometimes it will take a couple of days or even up to a week to really work through this. But we need to make sure that every single day, at least once a day, you're actually giving yourself that space to work through it. We don't want to only be stuck in the vortex and in this uncomfortable gray area and do nothing about it. We want to intentionally be creating time and spaciousness. And so this is also a great opportunity when you're in this unknown to do things that are fun. Everyone says the best ideas come in the shower or when you're on a walk, and that's because your brain is always thinking about it now that you've asked the question. So sometimes we need to just kind of step away and stop trying to force an answer for this 1 to 5 day period. And this is a state I was actually in a couple of weeks ago. I was debating how I wanted to launch my new group coaching program, Empowered CEO. I didn't know if I wanted to do a free webinar, if I wanted to publicly announce it, do a bunch of live streams, if I wanted to do a paid workshop. I had a few different options in my mind. And I spent several days, I think it ended up being almost a full week, where I was in this gray area of uncertainty. Is this a 12-month program or a 3-month program? Do I want to do a free webinar or a paid workshop? I was really debating, and I caught myself for the first 2 days of that week doing exactly what I know better than to do. But I was still stuck in that, asking my friends, asking my coach, asking everyone around me what they thought. And I realized that's what I was doing. So I stopped. I started journaling. And I let myself be okay being in this state of unknown for the rest of the week. I was like, I don't have to know today. I can give myself a couple of days here. And I was journaling every day. I stopped asking. I stopped Googling. And I even posted on Instagram stories about how uncomfortable I felt being in this unknown state. And so many of you replied saying that you've been in that state before and it's so uncomfortable and it felt so good to know you're not the only one. Well, if you're listening to this, you're not the only one who gets uncomfortable when you don't know the answer. And I want you to know that that's okay. And sometimes being in this uncomfortable unknown is good, because as long as you are giving yourself the space to work through it on your own, you will come up with clarity and an answer. You really will. And we want to make sure this unknown state, we don't drag it on. As long as you are actually giving yourself that space every day, I find that you will have an answer within 3 days usually, if not sooner. So there's nothing wrong with you. It's okay to be uncomfortable, honor the process, trust that it will work out, which is step 4 of this whole process. It is to start to practice and exercise having trust in yourself. While you're in this uncomfortable space and you're spending time brainstorming options, listen to the ideas that you come up with. Trust your gut when something seems right or wrong. And when that gut instinct comes of this is what I should do next, I want you to listen to it and just go with it. Ditch the should do's or the best practices. Sometimes the best thing you can do is something that's non-traditional. And that is really an exciting, experimental, and fun place to be in business when you can show up and kind of go with this idea that maybe no one else is doing, or maybe doesn't make the perfect sense or isn't the most strategic thing to do. Sometimes that's the best next step for you. Because truly, we're all different. We all have different businesses, different clients, different communities. Our best next step isn't always what someone else's is. And this is what happened to me when I was in that gray state of debating how I wanted to launch my new program. I was literally spending at least 30 minutes by this point brainstorming all these different options, even playing with math, playing with numbers, what felt good. And I had this moment where it just clicked, where I was like, I'm going to do 3 paid workshops and then I'm going to do an all access pass. And I suddenly realized why all of my desires. I wanted to really experiment with what marketing and messaging would resonate with my audience, and what topics do they enjoy and get the most transformation from when we're doing them, and practicing getting to pitch my new program 3 times instead of just 1 time. And really, there were all of these reasons why this solution encompassed everything I was trying to do. And it was really, really exciting. And there's this rush of energy that happens when you do have that moment of breakthrough after you've been in a state of uncertainty, where I was like, oh, this is it. This is what I'm doing. And I got it all out of my head. And I was like, this is it. I feel so smart. Like, if you've ever had a breakthrough, you're like, I am the smartest person in the world. This is so cool. It's like this high of energy. And it is such an incredible feeling. And what I want you to do is whenever you have that rush of certainty, you go with it. Like, that is your moment to for sure stop. And sometimes we'll have big energy rushes like that. Other times it'll be quieter. It'll just be, yeah, okay, let's do that. So whatever your point is, when you hit that decision point, that clarity, you feel like you have an answer, I want you to stop dwelling. I want you to trust yourself, practice that art of trust, and run with it. So as soon as that moment happens, we don't dwell. We say, okay, that's it. Time to move forward and start taking action. And step 5, there's actually 6 steps. I think earlier I said 5. There are 6 steps. So the 5th step is to, at this point, check if it is in alignment. And this might actually be something that can be helpful to do even while you're brainstorming different options. I always like to double check before I start a new project or take action on a decision and make sure that what I am doing, what I'm deciding, is in alignment with my 3-year big picture vision and my 90-day goals, and hopefully my 1-year objective as well. And those are the 3 things that I always teach all of my clients to do right out of the gate as we do a 3-year big picture vision. It's a really incredible exercise, but ultimately, whatever your vision is for where you're trying to go, are you trying to build a business where you have 10 one-on-one coaching clients? Are you trying to have 100 people in a course? Are you trying to do VIP days? Like, what is your vision that you're trying to work towards? And does this decision, this project, this action step get you closer to that? If your big vision includes working less, like working 3 days a week, and you're debating doing something that's going to make you work more hours, that's probably not in alignment with where we want to go. So you can use that even as a tool to weed out options when you're debating them. So before you take action, you want to always make sure this is in alignment with what you're trying to achieve ultimately. And then the final step, step number 6, is to take action. I talked about this in episode 50 of the podcast, but in order to stop overthinking, to get out of this state of analysis paralysis, looking to others to make decisions for you, the final thing to do is to take action. You will never know what the right decision is. And I don't actually believe there even is a wrong one. I think any action forward is progress. Any action you take next is going to get you closer to where you want to go. It's going to teach you the lesson you need to learn in order to progress forward. And I really want you to just go with it. You had some level of knowing or a breakthrough or a decision made, and now it is time to trust that and take action on it. And not only at the beginning. Taking action at the beginning is usually pretty easy because you have this rush of energy and confidence, but I want you to follow it through from start to finish, especially if we're talking about a project. Do not give up on this project halfway through. Go for it. Follow this all the way through, learn the entire lesson from the entire experience, and see what comes from it. When I decided to do the paid workshop series, at first it was so easy to take action. And then that meant 4 full weeks of consistently doing a 2 to 3 hour paid workshop, marketing it, delivering it, doing the replay, pitching 3 times, doing all of these things that on their own are not comfortable to do. And there was a lot of resistance throughout the 4 weeks. But I kept going. I kept honoring the decision I had made, the clarity I had had, trusting myself that it would work out, even in the moments where I was uncomfortable or the moments where I had doubt or the moments where I was scared. Because you better believe the day of paid workshop 1, I was so anxious all day, but I trusted that it would work out. And I always knew that even if the worst case scenario happens, it's all going to work out. And I showed up and honored my decision, trusted my gut, and it was amazing because doing this paid workshop series, which I didn't follow anyone's step-by-step process, and this isn't like, oh, I'm so cool. It was a really good exercise in this whole process of working through the discomfort, having a moment of clarity, and following it all the way through from start to finish. And it resulted in our biggest month in business ever with revenue, and more importantly, in a lot of ways than the revenue, the insights and lessons and feedback that I wanted from the experience were so valuable. I learned things that worked really well. I learned things that didn't work well. I got feedback on the trainings and areas that people really loved and things that I could communicate better. I also got practice pitching a new offer 3 times right back to back, which is very helpful. If you've ever pitched anything live or on a webinar, it can take a few times to kind of work through some of the kinks of your pitch and even presenting an offer to people. So that was extremely valuable. And so the value of taking the action, of following this through, trusting my own ability to make decisions, it wasn't just the money, it was the experience, it's the lessons, and it's the insights that I now can take moving forward through my business. We really have to start making our own decisions, following through on those decisions in order to learn and improve and grow and know what to do next. So I really want you to commit to taking action on your own ideas and decisions. And as soon as you start doing this, you'll start to create momentum. This is how you build momentum. It's not following someone else's strategies and then freaking out halfway through and giving up on them. It's not asking someone else to tell you, should I do this or this, and then just becoming dependent on them. The way you build confidence and momentum in your business is to work through this on your own. Use the resources you have and ultimately make your own decisions and follow them through and see what happens, because you just don't know what will happen. So this is how you go from relying on other people to make decisions for you to building your own confidence and making decisions yourself. So just a recap of those 6 steps. It is 6. Did I miscount? I'm looking at my notes. It's to stop asking others. It's to ask yourself, step 2. Step 3, it's to be okay in the unknown. Step 4 is to trust yourself. Step 5 is to check if it's in alignment. And step 6, there are 6, is to take action. I hope that this has been really helpful for you, because even though it may sound slightly simple, very rarely are we actually doing this. It's so much easier to look to others because it means we aren't responsible for what happens. If you just did something because someone told you to and it doesn't go according to plan, you get to blame that person. And I'm not saying you should blame that person, but that's kind of the psychology there. And I want you to really release yourself from that pattern. And I want you to start trusting yourself, building confidence in yourself. You can't get confident until you've taken action, and start to build this cycle of momentum and confidence in yourself and your own ability to move your business and grow and become successful on your terms, what that means to you. This is such a transformation that I've made. It's something you still do at the beginning of every project. You'll always want to be careful of this, but I'm so excited for you. If this was valuable for you, I'd love to hear from you. And if you're looking for a deeper level of support with not only mindset issues like this, but how to grow a team to support you and have a team culture that supports you and is in alignment with this way of operating, with learning how to really live this out and getting coaching and support and feedback in your online business, I do want you to know that I do have a program called Empowered CEO. It's a 12-month high-level group coaching program where you get weekly coaching calls with me, where I can give you support and my team can support you in growing your business. If you want to apply, you can go to meganmintz.com/apply. Only takes a couple of minutes to answer the questions, and we'll let you know if this is a good fit for you. And hopefully I'll see your application come through. But if you're listening to this, if you're watching the replay, if you're watching this on YouTube, all the different places you can consume the Productive Life podcast, I would love to hear from you. Leave me a comment, send me a DM on Instagram, share it on Instagram stories, or even more impactful is to leave a review on iTunes if you are listening to this as a podcast. All of the feedback is so helpful. And I would also love to hear if you have questions. Now that I am doing the Productive Life podcast as a Facebook Live, I think it's really fun to be able to answer your exact question. So if you have a question that you would like for me to answer, again, reach out to my team, send us an email, or reach out to me on Instagram. My handle is Megan_Mintz, or even leave a comment on this episode and let me know what questions you have so that I can support you and continue to help you become an empowered CEO in your business and really build a business that is what you want, because we're all different and we all want different things, and I would love to support you through that. Thank you so much again for listening. Thank you for your time, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to the Productive Life podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, it would mean so much to me if you would share your biggest takeaway on your Instagram stories or wherever you hang out. This helps me understand what you find the most helpful so that I can make more episodes and resources like this. If this podcast has helped you at all, please take just 1 minute to leave a review on iTunes so that we can help spread the word about the Productive Life podcast with others who may enjoy it. And last but not least, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast to get the latest episodes sent to you directly. To learn how to work with me one-on-one or get instant access to freebies, trainings, templates, workshops, and more, be sure to go to meganmins.com right now. I'll see you in the next episode.